And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line. Great weather this morning, 51 degrees, sunshine, and we may even see some 40s next week for lows. The weather is just absolutely gorgeous. Hope the folks in Tampa didn't have too much damage. My understanding, they did. It was a quick-moving storm, and the amazing part of it, when it crossed the entire peninsula of Florida, still came out as a Category 1 on the other side to cross that landmass and still do that. So they've got some things going on down there. A lot of folks got out. Still not anything close to what we got up here in western North Carolina, but we'll keep remembering those folks. I'm going to tell you something I did last night that I don't normally do, and I was hunting for something to watch.
You stayed up late.
No, God, no. That's never happened. So I was scanning for something to watch, and actually came across baseball and watched the Mets.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's
been good.
Everything has been really good according to the talking heads. I mean, it's been good baseball, good competitive baseball, and I got caught up in watching it.
When they play baseball and focus on that, it's fantastic.
Yep.
It's enjoyable. The fans, the engagement, the players, it's been phenomenal.
I think everybody would agree. And if you're keeping up with it, the division series was over last night. Mets won the divisional series over the Phillies, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? There are still matchups going on, but baseball, I usually watch playoff baseball because I want to watch stuff that's got urgency behind it.
Right.
You know, and some folks were talking about the way this has happened. Will Major League Baseball go back and say, well, we need to make this a 7-game series? I don't think you do.
No.
You put the urgency from the beginning, and you grow up into the 7-game series.
If anything, they'll make more games for getting up to that point.
Yeah.
By, maybe a 2 out of 3 and then a 3. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if they want to increase revenue without screwing the system up, they could do it that way, but it's not as exciting. But it's been good baseball.
Well, here's the thing that I have said, and I don't like all the games that baseball plays because there's not enough urgency there. And I understand that you've got to have more because the game is different and how the athletes have to get their body condition. I get all that.
Repetition.
I do.
And you and I had a great discussion about this a couple of years ago on the show, but it's one of those where you have to hit every day.
Yes.
And you got to face live arms, or the ability to hit consistently goes way down. So that's why.
And the same thing is with golf. Yeah, I've heard Tiger Woods say he would go on a putting green and he would do 100 6-foot putts or 200 6-foot putts.
Just militant,
because that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. But the Mets beat the Phillies. Mm-hmm. They move on to the National League Championship Series. Mm-hmm. They'll take on the winner of the Padres and the Dodgers. That is tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Game 5, win or go home. And that's been a great series. The only thing that has made that a little bit different for folks on the East Coast is they're, an hour or two away from L.A. to San Diego? It's not very far.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And so it's really had the participation, and they said, if anything – that's been hurting college football and any NFL because it's just got some more relevancy to it. Mm-hmm. The Royals lead the Yankees. The Yankees lead the Royals 2-1.
Yep.
That game is tonight at 8 o'clock. I may have to catch some of that.
The Guardians the Guardians, as well as they played this year,
they're number 2 seed.
So hard to call them that, but let's just say
But the Tigers actually
Cleveland.
Up 2-1.
Say Cleveland.
Yeah, and that game is tonight as well. And, for me, I'd like to see the Tigers because that's one of those old-school teams. I mean, that's a team that's been around forever and ever. But regardless of what happens here, I think you're going to have a lot of great baseball action going on. The league championships don't start until the 13th, which will be Sunday night, if I'm doing my math right, 11th, 12th, 13th. So Sunday night, the league championships will start. So great baseball. If you haven't seen any of it, you need to see some of it because it's been really good. Now I'm not gonna try to. Oh, I'll tell you this first. I don't know if you saw the trolls were out yesterday on the internet, and a rumor was started that Kirby Smart had been hired to be the New York Jets coach, but he would not report until February, till after everything was over.
Right.
Nobody could confirm that, but you talk about blowing up on the internet when people saw that. Now, it did.
Kirby Smart. I'm sure that it's kind of like Nick Saban talking about. There's always that when he was a Belichick.
Yep.
There's always that thing about going to the NFL, and we 100% get that, right? If you've ever played or coached whatever sport, it's one of those things about making it to the highest level, either as a player or a coach, and doing that and saying you did it. But I got to tell you, Kirby Smart's in a pretty good spot there, and has a chance to have, when I say legacy, I'm talking about like a major footprint.
Yes.
In the college football history.
Some people thought he would leave Georgia and go to Alabama.
No way, dude. No way. We all have friends all over the place, whatever, but I have quite a few people I know that are down in Georgia Bulldog territory, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The amount of support that guy's got down there, and one of my friends goes to church with him, he and his family or whatever, and Mark Rick and a bunch of those other guys. They said it is the support that he has is just unbelievable, and why you would want to leave that, knowing that people just keep reinvesting into it, and it's because of you. Yes, they love their university, but they love their leaders too, because they believe in them and give them something to believe in and something to hope for, that it's going to continue to be good. It's very interesting what he's got going on down at Georgia.
I like Kirby Smart.
Oh, yeah.
I like what he's done.
Yeah.
I was slow to warm up because I liked and respected Mark Rick so much. He just couldn't get over that last hump to get that championship. Now,
and he doesn't let like Nick Saban psychologically profile him and damage him like he did Jimbo.
Yeah. No.
Jimbo, I saw Jimbo in the interview the other day. He calls him Nick.
Yeah.
And I call him Coach Saban. Says, when Nick brought me on down at whatever, and I had 1 year contract, and just listen about how they used to do 1 year contracts. And he said, I think I'm offering you 2 years. He said, oh my God, that's great, But there was a lot of psychological stuff going on when he was saying that stuff about A&M and all that,
we have talked about this and know that there's some things need to be changed. Junior Adams, good morning. Logan said, problem with baseball is the fact that it's too far gone. And part of that is true. I agree, Logan. Schedule can't be adjusted because of the guys who are chasing to be the greatest. Records would be hard to navigate, and so would pay. Nobody would take less money, and the owners would pay them more than less. You can't. The only thing I'll say about that is the records now, and this has already been proven, the records now in baseball, the statistics are not what they were when we were growing up.
As far as?
You didn't take a strikeout. You wanted to hit 300 plus. Now it's about analytics and all. You know what I'm saying?
The cultural side of baseball.
That's correct.
And when I mean culture, I'm talking about not culture as we think of, but the mindset and the culture. Who said that, by the way?
Logan.
Yeah, it's a great point. So think of when they used to play 154 games versus 162, and then pitchers pitch used to throw all 9 innings. Now they go 5, and they got 6 guys coming out of the bullpen, which is fine. The problem is they're trying to modify, and they have the rules to fit the narrative, all right, that is currently making its way through. And we find that it doesn't matter if it's sports or politics, that when you start trying to change the rules based on a narrative, that things come full circle and show you just how bad of a decision that really was. Yeah. And it's like, not being able to position your fielders where you want to go.
Right.
Where you want them to go. Your job, remember, baseball is one of the few sports, if not the only one, where the defense has the ball, all right? Right? Yeah. But you position your fielders according to the way that the person hits.
Mm-hmm.
So why should you be able to move them just to this point only and not move them to wherever you need to? Because what happens is when you move them where you need to, the game starts working itself out, because now people start bunting and taking advantage of situations.
But they don't. They still let the analytics rule.
No, but that's because they haven't adapted. I know. They changed the rules to adapt to the feelings of the game instead of the true nature of it. It's just like we talk about all the time.
But what
with
I'm
football.
saying, you don't have the batting team making the changes they need
Correct.
to take advantage
Correct.
of the poor defense they've set up.
Well,
Just
they
like
look
you
at
said.
ratings and say, was it more exciting for this guy to have a 104 miles an hour off the bat, or is it more exciting for him to lay the ball down third or first base and get on?
Well, I told you, and I'm not a baseballer. I like a home run every now and then, but I really want to see small ball if I'm watching baseball. I want to see the chess match that goes on with advancing batters and switching up batters and arms and those kind of things. I want to see that more than I do than a guy comes up there and he doesn't. It doesn't matter to him if he strikes out because he's going for the fence. I just don't, that's not what I want to see.
Yeah.
I like to see small ball.
Yeah.
All right, now
Agreed.
we know that there's certain things that you don't like. Okay, so we're going to get past that. That there's certain things you don't like because it's here. But I like some of the changes that are being made.
You talk about NIL.
Well, that's part of it.
Oh my God.
I like the changes that are being made, and here's why. When the NCAA and all the leagues just buried their head in the sand and said, this isn't going to happen, we're too big and strong. There's a group down in Chapel Hill that did the same thing. They buried their head in the sand called the North
they've
Carolina High
struck
School
again,
Athletic.
by the way.
I know.
They've struck again, by the way.
But you can't do that. So here's some things that are coming, and it's going to take time, but it's things that are coming because they got to get control of this Wild West because it's out of control. Did you read the article, what Shane Beamer did with one of his players? He had a player that came to his office, and he said he was starting. He was in the defensive rotation. He was getting playing time. He already had 9 tackles. One thing, he was a linebacker. He came into Coach Beamer's office and said, Coach, I'm going to take a red shirt. What do you mean you're going to take a red shirt? You hurt? No, just I need to take a red shirt. And because he was involved, the opportunity thing that you talk about, Beamer kicked him to the curb.
Yeah.
You can go now.
Yeah.
And to me, that cracked a barrier that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because if you've got somebody wanting to do it, they're not committed to you anyway. Get them out of there.
Shane Beamer's job, like all the head coaches, all right, and the people that are involved in these teams, is to provide the best team possible.
Right.
All right, for what they are trying to do. Okay, and if they are truly trying to win games and be an SEC champion at South Carolina or anywhere else, okay, you can't have that individual mindset stepping in. People are trying to convince the sports world, all right, that it's okay for you to be individualistic and you can do this and it's all about you. And it's not. In the end, nobody cares. All right, they do for the moment, and that's why all of this is a sprint and not a marathon.
Right.
And if you got coaches that don't treat it like a marathon and treat it like a sprint, then they will be exhausted just like the sprinter and then be gone. People say, yeah, but they did it. And they, well, okay, that's today's news. Are you trying to build something that is lasting and sustainable and has truth to it, or something that is the wow factor and being first? Because being first ain't being right all the time. Okay, now sometimes you are if you're first, but that don't make it right.
Right.
And that's the problem we've got with this, and him setting the tone is the way it needs to be.
Absolutely. And the red shirt, I like the red shirt for what it was created for. And the red shirt was created for this, basically. You have an injury. They can't come back this season. Yeah. They get a red shirt, so they save a year of eligibility. The rule used to be, and now I think it's as long as you want to play, the rule used to be you have 5 years to play 4. That's it. 5 years to play 4. So you had that one red shirt year. The other red shirt that you could take, let's say you brought in more kids than you could really get to in a certain position, and you've got a younger kid, or usually it's a younger kid, that you see that he's too far down on the depth chart. He's not going to get any playing time.
Go ahead.
I'm going to red shirt you, give you another year eligibility.
Absolutely.
But you don't see people red shirting players that are in rotation in the everyday game plan. So to me, what needs to happen, and I don't know what all is in this next thing I'm going to tell you about, it needs to be in it so that what happens is if you decide to do that, we're cutting ties today. We're cutting ties
Yeah,
today.
don't come back in the facility.
No,
you're not
you're done.
using
You're done.
All these people that have invested into this program,
Right,
and into the players, if you're not in with this, you're out.
Now, here's the thing. There's two things that I've seen that are coming, and they're closer than they were, but they're not quite there yet. The NCAA at Division I has shortened the transfer window from 45 to 30 days. They also need to close one of those windows, so it's only one time a year. Now, here's the other thing that came, and I just saw this. I have not read what it consists of, but the Division I has eliminated the national letter of intent. Okay? It was established in 1964, and they existed as a formal binding agreement between prospective athletes and college programs for over 60 years. I sign one, you sign one. National letter of intent will be replaced by a new financial aid agreement. So now that you're getting on the hook, you know what I'm saying? That will provide many of the same core function as the national letter of intent and will likely be tied to a contract related to impending revenue sharing model across college athletics, which is one of those things that's starting to happen. Under the new rules, transfer athletes will be allowed to sign with a new school after they've formally entered the portal. Per the NCAA, once a prospect has signed a written offer of athletic aid, other schools will be prohibited from recruiting communications. That's what's not happening now. They're kind of circumventing that rule to see if they can poach players.
Yeah, that's
so
what's happening.
It's coming, and it's just taking them forever to get there. They also moved to nix the NIL program as it comes to NCAA and college athletics preparing for sweeping change via the impending House settlement, which is set to grant roughly $2.8 billion in damages to former and current athletes. All this mess I'm not really interested in.
No, they're the ones that have people say, like burn, like pave the way.
Yeah.
They should be compensated for this.
Reggie Bush is the example. Once they started allowing players to be played,
he didn't do anything. I mean,
right, but they gave him his Heisman back because
they
should have never taken it. But
right.
but now they're making it okay because the rules have changed. Well, that's the same thing they're doing here. They're going to go back and make restitution to players that should have gotten it, because if it's okay today, it should have been okay 40 years ago.
Who paved the way for all this to happen?
That's right.
Okay. And that's just like somebody coming in, like you giving money to somebody to start a business, or you invest with them, and all of a sudden, they take that on, and then all of a sudden it's, look what I've done, look what I've done. Well, first of all, you couldn't have got it started if people weren't investing money into it, or somebody, brings you into something and, and then all of a sudden it's, well, I'm doing this and this is mine. And no, hell no. That's not the way this works, okay? And I have a major issue with all of this for the people that provided that platform, all right, that what are you just going to say, well, I'm just doing it because I'm supposed to. No, that's where the entitlement BS comes in.
Right.
Okay? We need to get back, and we are through these kind of changes, getting back in that 8 to 10 year window where everything was about, entitlements and rights instead of roles, responsibilities, and duties. We all have to work together on this to make things better. All right. And what we do is we try to improve ourselves individually so it makes things better. When we start focusing that we're the only thing in the bubble, then all this craziness that's happened the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is what you get. The reason they're implementing these changes is because people are becoming disinterested. You have a group of people that are not watching any type of football.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying. You got to get the wild, wild west out of it and get it back to where there's some substance there, because right now –
there was substance there the whole time. They just didn't keep it that way because people wanted to start pushing against it. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, discovering new ways, having new ideas. But hearing the word no means freaking no.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, well, I'll change my mind later because, of your feelings or because of this or it's not right. All of this crap, you tell me this. How in the world can all of this be okay and pay high school kids and all that, but you have a Division I baseball player, all right, that goes to school, and if they stay at that Division I school, they have to wait 3 years from the time they enter campus or until they're age 21 in order to get drafted.
And the same thing with football. You got to be 3 years post high school.
Okay, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yet, it's okay to pay everybody to do this, but they can't take it to the next level in pro ball. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. What I'm saying is there's so much major dysfunction, based off of narratives when we got to get on the same page. Yeah, and how do you discern between the different sports as far as what we're all talking about, which is opportunity?
Yep.
How do you do that? It's in the way that you do it, the way it's being done right now is because it's whatever fits the narrative.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
But the biggest thing that's happening for it right here, the biggest thing that's controlling all of this is money. And I'm not talking about just players. I'm talking about universities and those type things too.
But money is not bad. Money makes the world
has to be controlled.
It does great things, but you have to have rules of engagement. And like in anything, you're going to have winners. You're going to have losers.
Right.
The thing with the losers is if you stay a loser, it's because you don't keep trying or you don't redivert and come up with a new plan. Okay, you just give up. Who's that on?
Yeah,
that's on the individual. Okay, so yes, sometimes we all may be fortunate where we hear stories about, well, I had an aunt I didn't know anything about, her great aunt, and she left me this, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what? People call that luck or whatever. Look, it is what it is. So you're going to have winners and things like there are people that get what they call lucky or whatever.
Right.
But the point of all this is you got to have a set of rules in place and go by them.
Yeah.
And so when somebody shows up and says, well, it's not fair, the athletes aren't getting it. Okay, thank you for your opinion. If you want to do that, go form a league and you start the whole thing and you do all the background work and put the risk in and invest your money. Then you can go over and do your thing instead of jumping into what we've done and made this right, made this what it is.
The reason that happened is because they kept their head in the sand and said it wouldn't happen, and then when it did happen, there were no controls, no checks and balances, nothing to tell anybody what to do.
Being very clear, I'm not against people making money and having an opportunity. That's not what I mean.
I just want guidelines.
I don't, but
I have to have structure in my life.
It's like, let's see, what was it? Chicken Little was The Sky's Falling.
Yeah.
What's the other one where it was a little red hen that did all the work and everybody shows up after she's done everything and now they just want to eat?
Yeah.
Because the bread's good?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. How about if you're invited to the table?
Yeah, that's what it should be.
I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot going on, and it's a lot more in depth, and it's not as simple as it sounds or I'm trying to make it sound. It's not that simple.
No.
But at the same time, you can create win-wins and still keep the integrity and give opportunity. So much opportunity has been taken away from so many kids through this because all we see is, well, so-and-so got paid.
Right.
Well, that's not the point. If that becomes the point, then you're not playing for the right reasons.
That's correct.
And so what happens when you don't do things for the right reasons? You get chaos ensues, and things crumble. That's just it. I mean, it's just the way it works. You can't change it.
Let me take a break, and then when we come back while his head's spinning, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home.
First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com.
At Stifel Nicholas, we're committed to offering investors personalized investment guidance. We're a full-service organization with departments staffed with professionals that specialize in a wide range of investment opportunities, from the most conservative to the most aggressive. We strive to give each account, regardless of size, careful, individual attention. Call Fore Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange.
And we're back. Yeah, I had to get him warmed up, loosened up.
Wait.
Go ahead. There you go. I had to get him loosened up, make sure everything's okay. All right, couple comments. Andrew said, "Welcome to the social media generation." That's correct. Everyone thinks they're invited to the table.
That is so plain, but it's so true. That is great. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just what it is. There's nothing else to say.
But, you know, it's like everything else.
Fantastic.
And this is one of the things that irritated me out of this whole hurricane thing that went on when it went to Western North Carolina.
God almighty. You start on this.
There is so much genuine information that comes out of there. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the trollers that want to throw things in there that are non-existent just to kind of starting a different narrative for whatever reason. And I've always said this about the internet with hacking and all the kind of things. That is such a powerful tool that you can learn from, that you can share from, but somebody has to go in there and screw with it, you know, to where you don't want to use it or it's bad.
Is the idea of, you know, this whole thing about misinformation, you know, disinformation, all these things that we hear, they're basically, if you go against a narrative, then it's mis or dis, right? And what happens is when you open up a true platform where people can say things that maybe others don't agree with, or maybe, you know, maybe is not factual or truth, it eventually comes out which way it is.
Right.
The problem is when you try to, like Facebook does, for example, you know, they have fact checkers and all these things. They're more narrative checkers than fact checkers. You know, Zuckerberg come out and said, well, I've had pressure put on me in the past, you know, to not say certain things or take certain things down, or, you know, not allow people to do this. You cannot do that if you're going to be successful.
Only if you get into a liability or slanders type situation.
And of course, I'm not talking about that.
You can't bring stuff down just because you don't agree with that theology or ideology.
I agree. That's and let me be clear. You're 100% right. I'm not talking about directing at a person.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, you know, if someone has a complaint against FEMA or another government organization, that government organization doesn't have feelings. Who cares what they say?
Right.
Let them vent and have their opinion. It may not be truthful, it may not be factual, but who cares? Because eventually things work themselves out and the truth comes to light.
Yep.
The problem is when you have, you know, people like me or you may defend an idea or an entity, like, you know, maybe a high school. You know, let's say we're defending West Lincoln. West Lincoln ain't got any feelings.
Yeah.
Now, the people there do.
Right.
Right? But it's an entity. It's amazing to me that we spend so much time worried about, how an entity's performing, instead of just letting people vent and say what they think, even though it may not end up being true, but to get it all out there so the truth can then come to the top. There's a lot of people that defend, their narrative instead of and try to go against other people, which is fine. That's part of what we do. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it all works its way. The cream rises, which is the truth comes to the top.
I see posts all the time that I do not agree with. Yeah. I don't think's right, but I don't get in the fray because it's an opinion.
Yeah, it's fine.
I get bothered by the people that get in the fray, but yet they don't have an answer for whatever got posted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if you've got a problem with the way something was done, then show me how you've experienced that same situation and it didn't go that way.
Right.
Or show me how you would fix that. Give me something constructive. There's nothing I hate worse than to tell me that this is wrong, but you can't tell me what makes it right.
And two, what we've learned through this, and I think a lot of people are having a hard time accepting that are very pro-government with everything, is that the government is there to help us and provide, resources and things like that during a disaster. But what we found out is it's the people that actually go in and help each other out and, take, supplies and food, and the government can't do everything by itself. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we got this expectation that, the government can do this and that. That's not true. It's the people.
Yeah.
All right. And then you have the government agency coming in and trying to help and provide aid and resources and all this. And when the two clash, a lot of times what happens is people feel like it's not being done for the benefit of the people that need it. And then the other, maybe the governmental agency that's coming in, the people that run it, say, well, we need to be in control of this because of, and then that's where the great, clash comes in, because people want to help. We have seen a massive, not only search and rescue. I heard
helicopters this morning at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they've been flying over the house. They've been doing all this stuff. Lincoln County has been amazing with the airport in and out. Aaron Bergen. I mean, I'm just naming a few people. We've done a lot of stuff to help these people. And that's what we're supposed to do. It's okay to be critical of government. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that, because it leads to a level of accountability.
Right.
When people start worrying too much about, you shouldn't say this about that, first of all, what people should and shouldn't do is not up to you.
That's correct.
Okay, it's what the individual beholder of
unless
the
they attacked
believes.
You personally,
right.
That's different.
And basically what's happening is you have people that are attacking people that have opinions or views on the way things should be working, and taking up for an entity that doesn't care anything about them. It blows my mind. And I completely understand. I don't want things like, we've all put posts out there that were AI generated. Like I put a thing out there a week or so ago with the girl on the boat and all this stuff, and ladies like, I looked this up and this is AI generated. I said, ma'am, that's not the point. Awareness is the point. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back on point.
Which goes back to
and stop worrying about shit that don't matter. Listen to the message, all right, and not worry about the imagery of the delivery. It doesn't have. It's what we're trying to do is get awareness out there. Had somebody do that with one of my Humane Society posts or whatever. This has been found to be that. I said I already know that.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is the message. Let's stay on the messaging here.
Yeah.
Okay, because when we see it, that allows us to absorb what's actually going on. It doesn't matter if it's AI generated or somebody put it out there and they're doing false this, false that. That we're not promoting that. Mm-hmm. We're promoting the idea of awareness and saying, based off of this picture I see, I'm not going to do anything about the picture, but how do I assimilate that to something that's going on in my community, all right? Mm-hmm. And how I may help, all right? Things don't change because of a narrative. Things change when individuals take a position and they go from thinking about it to doing something about it, okay? It's just like when I coach and when you coach. When we see kids, we can't help them evolve and become better people and better players until we take what? Action.
Mm-hmm.
We have to observe and assimilate based off of our experiences or lack thereof, and then start implementing the process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the trolling crap with all the people on Facebook that spend all their time fact-checking things instead of really listening to messaging and what's most important should be put on notice with that. And if you want to do that, if you're one of those people on Facebook, that's your business. You spend your time doing stuff that really doesn't matter so you can correct somebody, or you can get off your rear end and think about an idea and get up and do something about it.
I was contacted.
That's just the way it works.
I was contacted on behalf of the paper because somebody saw something in writing that they thought made it more valid, that the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department had confiscated goods at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately responded, and I said, well, the only thing I can tell you is that I know people personally that's been involved at the airport with flights, all these different things. And I said, I can assure you that that's not real, or I would have heard about it, because I'm not getting it secondhand. Nobody's come to me and said, I've got this. All I've got is how hard people have worked, but it usually comes because somebody didn't get it done the way they wanted it done, even though they had nothing to do with it.
It's like that with anything.
Yeah.
It happens in the workplace.
Yep.
It happens with, the way that, things work in politics, all these other things. Number one, first and foremost, all that crap being aside, truth will come through.
Yep.
And let me tell you something. When Lenny and I, and I'm speaking for you, I shouldn't do that, but I am. If we talk about things amongst each other or on here and we find out it's wrong, I have no problem going in like, hey, I was 100% wrong.
You're exactly right.
Hey, look, I misinformed or had an opinion that I felt very strongly about that I thought was truth.
Mm-hmm.
That is not. I have no problem with that because it's about getting to the truth.
Stewart said, problem is that government's being more of a hindrance than a help, and that comes because it's so big. When they confiscate supplies, prevent people from bringing supplies in or getting them to those that need them, he said they need to get the hell out of the way. Well, the problem is sometimes there's so much bureaucracy that you can't get there. I'm going to give you one example of a FEMA thing, and I'm going back to Aaron Rodgers, I promise. This is a guy, lives in Asheville. He's been down here a number of times working on some of my embroidery equipment. Mm-hmm. Great guy, originally from England. And he had some issues, and he applied for the whatever the $750 is from FEMA.
Yeah.
They told him he couldn't have it because he had too many vehicles.
Yes. So there's certain qualifications and certain, standards that they have and things that they've got set in place. And there should be. The problem is that when you have things happen like they've happened, and people can't get aid, but then they see people coming into the country illegally that are getting that, it becomes a topic that, we transition things from a human rights issue to okay, now we're really in the boat, no pun intended, but the water's high, what are we going to do? Okay, so it brings it back to where the focus, is intended to be, which is on the people, right, and trying to help them. This is the issue, the bureaucracy you talked about. And see, I think FEMA's, trying to do things and people are trying to help. And this was a horrible natural disaster, one that never could have been imagined. That deep into the mountains, that deep into, that part of the U.S. with that much rain. And if you want to know why we got that much rain, look at orographic upwelling. Mm-hmm. And it will show you not only was the storm coming in, I'm a Weather Channel nerd, but not only the storm coming in, but also how that's right, and how it hits the mountains and starts wringing out the moisture, because that's what happens when it comes down from Canada, and from our northwest and hits up against our Appalachian Mountains, starts wringing all the moisture. That's why they get snow a lot of.
I learned that in my geology
class.
No,
I'm just saying.
I didn't know it, but I mean,
my friends in college used to call me up and say, "What's the weather going to be like today?" That's
my family does that.
Well, I mean, they used to do that to me. Like seriously, my girlfriend's friends would call me and say, "Hey, what's the weather going to be like this week or today or whatever?" And I'm like, at first, I was like, "Oh God, I've got my feelings hurt a little bit." And they're like, "No, you just watch it all the time. When we come over, that's what you got on the thing." You know what? But the point, the point of all this is we're trying to help, and I truly believe that government's trying to help. It's like you said, red tape. The guy from Home Depot was on last night. I watched a great the founder of Home Depot, watched a great thing on what he had to say, and he said, we started our company when Sears Roebuck was just 100 miles an hour and doing everything. Sears was the company.
Yep.
And he said the problem with their downfall is they were trying to get some small product like nail polish put in the store. It had to go through 7 different committees.
Right.
And he said, when we make decisions at Home Depot, especially when we were first getting started, he said me and the other guy would go and we'd we'd walk down the hall or meet each other in there, and we make executive decisions on $1 million, close to $1 billion ideas or whatever, what we want to do, and it'd be done.
You don't have time to let that thing develop.
And the problem is, Lanny, when you have disaster relief, the number one word there is disaster. And it's so hard to organize that when you're not familiar with the area. That's why we living in North Carolina, we're able to get up there and help our people and help them because we are familiar. The government is there to help and assist, okay? This is our country. This is our country, okay? It's not the government's country. It is ours, all right? We want to have a government that's in place, local, state, federal, that is of, by, and for the people. That is the whole idea of it. It's not for us to be submissive to everything they tell us, but at the same time, we have professionals and experts, people that serve on boards that we try to get our information from, and we need to means test that to make sure that it's truthful and not narrative-based. There's nothing wrong with attacking, an entity with verbal assaults. There's nothing wrong with that, all right, as long as it doesn't go over the top and there's not a lot of
as long as it's real.
Right, but the thing about it is, whether it is or not, there's nothing wrong with that because eventually the truth comes out of it.
Yep.
It causes more people to be engaged. Right? And it gets a lot of debate. So when you have all your fact checkers and truth checkers come in and say, well, no, this isn't right. You got to do it this way, or this is what they're supposed to do. That's okay, too. That's okay, too, because it gets everything, gets people more informed, and finally the truth comes up at the top. I mean, think about where we've come from, especially your generation back into mine. Eggs were bad for you, but it's okay to go over and eat Cheerios. I mean, think about that. You want to know why people have so much distrust? I mean, think of this. Bread was one of the 4 major food groups. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is there's a reason, and this is what's happening in college football with the NIL stuff. People are getting disenfranchised and disinterested because they're more worried about a great player they got on their team that their coach has developed. Now he's just going to get up and leave or try to redshirt.
Right.
It'll eventually work itself out. But you got to step up and you got to be aware. And you got to talk to people, and you got to address the matters most important to them,
and you
not
have
to the narrative, to the people.
And you have
that's
to.
The difference.
You have to question things,
and that's okay.
Okay, that's
even
what you're supposed to do. All right,
even if you're wrong.
My wife's got her speaking people who you can't trust or believe anything they say. Aaron Rodgers, I guarantee you, almost had everything to do with that firing. Okay, here's what I'm going to say about that, and one of the few times that we agree. If you watch the game Sunday, Aaron Rodgers' body language told it all. I don't take anything that we disagree on this. I take nothing away from the athlete that Aaron Rodgers is. I have never felt like he was in it for the team. Now, he went on record on the Pat McAfee show and said, as far as any of these ridiculous allegations out there, I'm not going to spend more than one sentence in to respond to it. And that is that I resent any of those accusations because they are patently false. It's interesting the amount of power that people think I have, which I don't. I love Robert. I think this is my opinion. I think he's full of crap because Aaron Rodgers dictates more. There's been too many players that's played with him for whatever reason. He doesn't want to be coached. He doesn't like to be coached. He wants to be in charge.
What happened to him, though? He went from Mike McCarthy, right? And they went out and got a guy that was as young as he was. Why would you do that? Because he's some great offensive genius and proud. Why would you do that? If you're going to have a quarterback that's going to lead your franchise, do 3 things, okay? Number 1, get him with someone that has a lot more experience than he does that can offer something to him to keep developing him instead of him having to assume the role. That's what happens in the absence of leadership. People will step up and good people will leave, okay? Number 2, how about making sure that you draft around the capabilities of the person you're asking to lead your franchise and who have naturally appointed to do so. And number 3, don't BS him. If you tell him you want him involved in the trades and drafting, and then you don't do it, that's why he acted like that. This narrative that the media spins out with him is because of what he believes and what he doesn't believe. He was anti-vax from day one.
Not for me.
No, not for you. I'm talking about in general, though.
Yeah.
I think your opinions are very you've thought through them, and that's the way you
I don't
feel
look
about
at that. I don't look at that
I don't-
external stuff like that. I look at the product on the field.
That's the problem.
And
the external factors have factored into that for him by the way he's being portrayed. It's awfully interesting to me when he throws an interception, the camera goes right on him, but I don't see anything ever when Mahomes throws one. By the way, he's thrown like 6 this year, but you know, but we'll get on with that. But I don't ever see the camera go on him. You know, it's about what's enticing to the viewer.
All right, I'm
got.
going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer me this from a coaching perspective. Okay?
Yep.
Did Aaron Rodgers do what was right for the team when he completely didn't show up for anything preseason? He went to Egypt on a vacation.
Yes.
When he knew when training camp, preseason training camp, did he do what was right and should be expected of him or any other player? I don't read experience. I don't read anything into that kind of stuff, and especially in this case because he didn't even play last year. They've changed players. He needs to get on the same. I go back to Tom Brady being.
That's a good point.
I go back to Tom Brady being on a high school field before he went to Tampa Bay with his receivers
and the 2 high school kids.
Yes.
Which he said you can't put this on social media.
Yes.
I'll make sure that.
Yes.
But you can't do. I know. I get it.
But you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And Aaron, to me, Aaron Rodgers not in the same league as Tom Brady, but that's what I'm looking for in my leader.
Yes.
And just like we were talking before we went on the air, are we talking about people that just speak with words or they lead with their actions?
Well,
I want to see you lead with your actions.
And that's a good point. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that part of that decision not to go into camp was part of his rehab, that they didn't want him yet performing those maneuvers and things like that. From what I think I remember reading. Now the Egypt thing and all that, I guess it's kind of like, it makes it look like, well, I don't want to come. But I think that was a stint from still making sure that he was not susceptible and fully healed up from. Now I'm not making.
Yeah,
I'm saying I'm thinking that's what I remember. But I still think your point is incredibly valid. Is he not there for moral support?
That's correct.
I don't know.
Because he was coming back. He was going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you've lost a player. He can't play the rest of the year. I'm okay if he's not there. Okay?
Yeah, it's all about commitment, right?
Aaron Rodgers, he should have been there. If nothing else, just from a commitment standpoint to his players he was going to play with, guys, they won't let me practice yet, but I want to be here. So if you've got a question or I've got a question, we can talk through it so that when I do get back, we'll all be on the same page.
So is it okay to do that if you have a contract dispute?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
that's what I'm saying.
No.
So,
there are no contract disputes in my world.
Well, no, I understand. But you know where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah.
So how is that different?
It's not different.
Exactly. And so, but the problem is, from a narrative-based standpoint, it is portrayed differently. And that is the whole issue with this.
But the whole thing with the contract, there's not a commitment there either. If you're holding out because of a contract, you don't have a commitment either.
You remember what Master Yoda said in Star Wars? Do you remember this quote? Do or do not. There is no try.
Right.
Okay, so you either do it or you don't. Mm-hmm. You succeed or you fail. Trying is just what you're supposed to do in order to try to achieve success, knowing that you still may fail. Mm-hmm. Do or do not, there is no try. Mm-hmm. And this comes into how we want things to, be perceived on how, opinions, and when I say our, I'm talking third person, not us, but including us, but not us, of how we're trying to shape a narrative instead of seeing the situation for what it is. And, with Aaron Rodgers, he is who he is.
Yeah.
My thing is, if you got a guy like that, just like with Brady was a collaborator.
Yeah.
Rodgers is, from what I've seen, I don't know him.
Correct.
But from what I've seen, he's not.
No.
He wants somebody that has got a tremendous amount of experience because he is a very different cerebral thinking person.
Mm-hmm.
He is different. Does that make him wrong? In some eyes, yes. In mine, no. It makes him who he is. How am I going to take someone that is that good, all right, and make sure that they can elevate the rest of us? How am I going to get on the same page? Coaching-wise, things, you may think, and I say you because you and I have worked together on the football field, you may think that I am a dictator when it goes out there because I tell the kids, hey, there's only one way, and it's my way. That's not necessarily the entire truth of the matter, though. That's the perception, so we can all get on the same page.
But it has to be that way at that point.
It does. But how many times did you ever come up to me and say, "Hey, what about this?" Or "I want to do this," and I'm like, "You know what? That's a great idea."
But we never did it, agreed or disagreed, in front of kids.
Oh, sure.
I had an assistant coach argue with me on a sideline on a Friday night.
Oh God.
And I was the head coach, and I went to the AD because he was in the stands, and I went to the AD on Monday morning. I said, you decide. Either he's out or I'm out. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me, but you're not going to question me and argue with me on the sidelines.
Why would you
do
that? That's not the way
it's just like if you have issues, it's okay to do things as a group, but if you have issues, you don't air that laundry in front of everybody. I heard somebody talking about it. When you've got an issue with a head coach, you walk in, you make an appointment, you walk in his office sometimes, and you talk about it.
Yeah.
And you either come to a different conclusion or you walk away agreeing to disagree, and then I'll make changes when that time comes. There are ways to do things, and there's too many things that I have seen with Aaron Rodgers and I think part of it is he's had a chip on his shoulder since the day he got there because he didn't get to play where he wanted to. He didn't get to play when he got drafted. I mean, on and on and on. But a lot of those things, he didn't have the wear and tear on his body when he got to the NFL. When he got to the NFL, he was able to sit and learn. Yeah. And that you can't
it's invaluable.
Yes, you can't duplicate that.
It's invaluable.
And I think part of that he resented and I think he is very intellectual. I think he's very intelligent.
Oh, yeah. Very well spoken.
But at the same time, we have had this conversation many times. If I give you the best athlete or a mediocre athlete that is coachable, which one do you want?
Oh, the 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. And we both
absolutely.
But we have been on. You and I have been on winning formulas before.
Yes.
Where that was the case.
Yes.
And we've also been on the flip side where we should have been winning when it was all put on the athleticism instead of the player, the core character of what you're working with, right?
I can't go that route.
How many times, thinking about over the years, and I'm sure we got a couple guys on here that I've coached before, even played against, that when I started coaching or whatever, had some following or whatever. I can't tell you how many times over the years in my coaching career, when I started when I was 21 all the way up to 52, that I have used collaborative measures with players based on their experiences and their knowledge, and also as a form of building confidence in them in reassuring things. But they still knew that I was going to make the final decision, whether I was 21 and they were 18, or if I was 29 and they were 21 or 22. They knew that I would make the final decision, but their input was appreciated, often sought out, and seeking it, not approval, but seeking collaboration to try to come up with the best available effort.
This is my philosophy, whether it's with employees, players, whatever it is, and I make this very known if people work for me. We are a democracy. But when the final decision has to be made and I'm ultimately responsible, we become a dictatorship.
Yes.
But it's always open. I am always open to discuss. I don't have all the answers, but I'm always open to discuss. But if I'm going to be held responsible, it's not going to be saying, well, Jim thought this would be a good way, so I just did what Jim said.
Or the committee. You never use that word with me.
It's me.
Ever. And this is the thing about the difference between that and governing, okay? Being on town council, And I made this very clear when we had a council meeting in January along with the other council members, and we had a great talk, and things were really good. Things got contentious for a little while. All right, and that happens from time to time.
Sure
We are
does.
nonpartisan, right? So what happens is when you have nonpartisan is people follow the ideas instead of following on the sword for the party. Mm-hmm. Okay, because there's people, what I've seen experienced in my life,
those opinions mean a lot more.
Is there are people that are in a party that have nothing to do with the beliefs and values and things that I believe,
right?
But yet because my dad or my mom or I've always voted that way, no matter what they say, even though it's against what I believe, I'm going to vote for them. You don't have that in nonpartisan politics.
That's correct.
And one of the things that me and the council members talked about is there had been some dissension, not only on our council, but in many others. And it's going to happen that way, when you're trying to govern and work. And what we talked about was, look, and I made it very clear to them, if we have a vote and it's 3-2 or 4-1, all right, and I'm on the other end of it, I'm going to probably ask, why did you vote that way if I don't already know? Mm-hmm. And it's not because I'm trying to chastise you or
did I miss something?
Right, did I miss something? Okay. Now, most of the time we go in and vote, so we are pretty good on what's going on.
Right.
And we know, and it's 4-1 or 5-0 most of the time. And that's a good thing. That means there's consensus and we know what's right. And I told them, if it's 4-1 or 3-2,
yeah.
And, I just absolutely disagree with this. When we make a vote, I'm going to govern with you.
That's correct.
I may not have agreed with it. I'm not going to go out in the community and say, I can't believe they did this. This is terrible. I'm going to say, look, I voiced my concerns. Mm-hmm. They were heard because we have honorable people that serve on our council along with our mayor and, our town manager. And I feel like they're honorable people that will listen. Okay. And I tell people that if we disagree, I may not have agreed with the decision, but I'm going to move forward and govern with them. And if the topic comes up again, then, we will.
A united front.
We are. We're going to stand arm to arm, and if you think of it, that way you get things done and move on when the majority makes a vote locally. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference between that and our country is we are a constitutional republic. People talk about a democracy, save the democracy. That is not what we are.
Yes.
We are a republic. All right. We have equal representation by all the states with one form of a body, legislative body, and then we have it based on the amount of people, not citizens, the amount of people. That's why the immigration thing comes in, where people are kind of, concerned about, well, is this being done right? Or, and we've had questions about that from day one. It's not just a now thing. It's just hyper-focused because of social media and our awareness now that we didn't have the last, 200 whatever years. But what you got to understand is it's the same thing in sports. The representation of how things are and then having an equal representation over here are incredibly important. Mm-hmm. And it can't be just, well, these big schools over here are just going to go do their thing, and then these other schools here can do their thing. That's why they have Division I, II, and III. Right. That is why. That's why we have NAIA, JUCOs.
So you can try to make it as equal as possible on a competitive level.
Right, where people have a fit in what they're trying to do or the opportunities that are presented to them.
Right.
What we cannot ever do is say, well, the majority of people feel this way, and this is what, because what happens is it suppresses ideas, it suppresses new ways of doing things. That's why I don't like a supermajority in the NCAA. I like the different divisions. Yeah. Juju calls the game with Jack every, Coach Huss every Saturday, man. They're on there, they're doing their thing, they're talking about it. That is for that particular set. They have representation in the NCAA by being able to be a Division II school and do what they do. And they have a good governing idea. They just got to get the body right. Mm-hmm. They got to get the body of that right and stop basing it, just on, the NIL stuff, because that hardly any of the players get that.
But all of that came about because they did not have a plan when they went into it. They threw it against the wall to see what would stick. Final thought, Lincoln Pauly says, how smart were our forefathers for forming a republic and not a
Well,
democracy.
that's why.
Yeah.
Laney, that's why, because they came from kings and queens.
Yep.
You know, the thing about royalty and all this stuff and, civility in politics, I've heard that before. Listen, there's no such thing. There's what you show on camera.
Yeah.
And, we're getting along and all. Let me tell you something. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay? And the only way you get civility in politics is if people lose passion on both sides and they just want to come to consensus. And the worst thing I ever heard that I never want to hear again is, well, they got to do the business of the people. Let me tell you something. When the House of Representatives or the Senate get together, all right, it's just like football, Lanny. It's just like college sports. They're voting, and their ideas are representative of the people that voted them in office. That is why there's individual representation. You say, well, it's for the good of the country. We all want that. But when we are elected, I'm elected to serve for the interest of the people in town of Maiden. Now, I may agree or disagree with some of the ideas, and people can talk to me, and I'll tell them that all day long and be nice about it.
Right.
That's okay if we disagree. Thanks for coming in. I 100% disagree with everything you said, but I want you to know my door's always open, and I will listen. Or I say, you know what, I never thought of that's a pretty good idea. I need to look into this.
Right.
Either way, it's kind of like you and I talk about. That's why you need to run for council one day.
No.
But the point of all this is, we got to stop this narrative about, well, when it's what you want, well, we got to do what's best. We got to move. We got to do the business of the people. When they are representing the people that voted them, they are doing the business of the people that voted them in. So we got to get away from this mess.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we got to get back. This is why our leadership in this country is just absolutely off the charts horrible right now, because it's hyper-focused on narratives instead of truth.
It's not focused on people.
It's not focused on addressing the matters most important to people. Same thing in college sports.
Mm-hmm.
They're worried about addressing the matters most important to a select group of people that have an elite status based on their athleticism instead of the overall picture of growth and development. That's where the core problem comes in, because it's about TV contracts and money.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
It's the same thing, and we've hyper whatever you call it, politics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we've all become more sensitive because we got this. Well, you know what? It's no different than it was 200 years ago.
No.
I mean, how they used to walk out there and try to shoot each other, do the whatever it was, the duels or whatever, I mean, it's no different.
Yep.
Okay, it's the same concept. But what we got to do is find effective leadership and stop falling on the sword because of an R or D.
But it's like everything else. It will change because it has to.
Well, it's going
to evolve,
because the younger generation's not going to put up with it.
That's right.
I'm telling you, when they come through, that crap's done for a while.
Right.
Now it will evolve back because that's what
everything's
that's
cyclical.
The way they develop things, and that's the way that sports in college and high school should be developed, where it has things that turn over, new ideas that come in, and new ways to do things, but it has a core set of principles which are truths that it always has to revert back to, and those cannot be skewed. And when they are, that's when chaos ensues.
Yep.
This is, again, I keep going. I'm talking sports, but through what we see on a national level, and we tend to emulate that through the way the leadership is. It was amazing when you would hear, the voice of and I wasn't alive then. I think you were when Kennedy was alive, or for example, when Reagan was alive. They were very soothing voices, that people could relate to on a large, grand scale. Whether you agreed or disagreed with politics, you could relate to it.
Right.
All right, there wasn't, so much rhetoric or so much, this group hates this group. It was focused on the people, and that's what college football has got to start doing. They've got to implement policies that are effective for the very last person from an athletic standpoint that's on that team.
Right.
And then all the way up. You can't do it from the top down because it breaks the system, just like you see now.
Well, you don't have continuity and you don't have commitment from everybody involved if you don't do that.
If it's going to be a team sport and you want to pay so-and-so X amount of money, they can't do it by themselves. Now, if it's wrestling or tennis, okay, that's where we're at. Skiing, that's where we're at.
We're out. Have a good day, good weekend. See you next week.